If you are familiar with the history of Sodor and its railways, you probably know that the 30s were an eventful time on the island, for better or for worse. Many progressions of this time stemmed from the railway's main locomotive workshops at Crovan's Gate. There had been a great fire there in the year 1930, and while the recovery had been slow, engine and rolling stock repairs and construction had picked up once again by the later half of the decade. Several successful designs were produced during this time, some of which can still be found in service on the island to this day. But that's the thing about history, isn't it? People highlight their own successes out of arrogance and pride, but try to bury and hide their failures and mistakes out of shame. This story is no different. The year was 1937, and a small group of engines were gathered at Crovan's Gate outside the main workshop sheds in the February wind. A crowd of important people were present as well. Railway controllers and Sudrian politicians were among the crowd. They had all gathered for this special occasion. Sir Derek Topham Hatt and the railway's chief mechanical engineer, Philip Grayson, stood on the center track leading into the large workshed.
"Oh, I say, isn't this a lot for one engine? I never received this much fanfare when I left the workshops."
"Gordon, you're a prototype. Why would— Shh! What is it, Sparrow?" "I think I hear the engine."
"I think we're all making a big deal out of nothing. Besides, it could just be one of the works engines. They're always scuttling about this place."
No, I believe I see all of them here outside. There's Mallory.
Yes, Edward, we don't need a roll call. When did you get here, Cassidy? Before the engine's conversation could continue, a loud and unfamiliar whistle sounded from within the works complex, and a cloud of steam billowed from the entrance. Deep chuffing could be heard as a long, sleek, northwestern blue steam engine made its way into the daylight. The director and chief mechanical engineer unveiled the engine's nameplate together. Sudrian Diamond, it read, in bold, etched lettering. Crack! A champagne bottle was shattered on the new engine's buffer beam. It didn't seem to bother him in the slightest. The human festivities were kicked off, and the engines were left to themselves. The Sudrian Diamond didn't seem to be one for conversation, so most of the others decided to leave him alone. He had only just seen the light of day, after all. The next couple of weeks went by without much of note. Sudrian Diamond was certainly not a social engine, and preferred to sleep in a shed separate from the main ones at Tidmouth and Vickerstown. He pulled many test trains along with mainline services, in what to everyone seemed like good time. To everyone except the works team, that is. Other engines often heard snippets of conversation between Sudrian Diamond and the works employees. It always seemed like they were trying to push him further. "It's despicable," Henry said one night in the sheds. "What right do they have to judge Sudrian like that? I'd like to see them try to pull the express." Sudrian was what all the engines had started calling Sudrian Diamond.
You're right, Henry. They should see the poor lad is trying his best to meet their expectations.
Well, he should do the job he was built to do.
Gordon!
What? It would be a stain on our record if our works produced a failed engine. As if our record isn't stained enough as is.
Gordon, I know that was directed at me.
Gordon, that's enough.
Aye, he could hear you, you know. Romelia was right. In fact, Sudrian did hear Gordon, and most unfortunately, he took it to heart, or firebox, rather. Everyone's words rang out in his smokebox. Do the job well. Stain on the record. Try harder. Don't be a disappointment. The following evening, he was scheduled to take the express from Tidmouth to Barrow. The words continued to echo in each thought Sudrian had. He made a promise to himself that he could not disappoint on this run, and that he would finally make his builders proud. He buffered up to the express coaches a bit less gently than he usually did, and departed from the big station on the hour. By the time he passed through Crosby, he was going his average speed, but his speed kept on rising, and rising, and rising, faster than he had ever gone before. Whoa, do we have you on vehicle or something? His driver exclaimed. He was impressed, but still not satisfied. Neither was Sudrian. He was determined to push himself harder. Past Wellsworth he rushed, tackling the hill without much thought. He was going faster than Gordon ever had now. He clattered past Marin, making his way towards Kronk. His whole body was aching and steam was starting to leak, but he carried on. Faster, faster. He was about to reach his absolute limit. The absolute limit is the term used for, well, the absolute limit of a vehicle's capabilities. No one actually knew what happened when an engine went past its absolute limit. Well, no one would truly know until this night. Steam was now leaking in the cab. "Christ, what the hell are you doing?" cried the driver.
"I'm not a failure! I'm not a failure!"
Sudrian's words pierced the air around him. The pain he was in was nearly unbearable, but he continued on. 190 kilometers per hour, 200— Crack! Hiss! Clank! People living in the valley heard the sound from their houses and called the railway's main office. Edward was sent to the scene along with the director, works manager, and a small team of workers who were riding in a works unit carriage. What they saw horrified them all. Sudrian's boiler hadn't exploded or anything like that. In fact, cosmetically, he looked completely fine, for the most part. This, of course, seemed quite odd to the team sent out, but it was the engine's face, or at least what was left of it, that had caused members of the team to hurl the past 2 meals they had eaten over the bridge's edge and into the valley below. You would too if you were there. He just broke.
Poor lad,
Edward muttered to himself. Another gruesome surprise awaited in the cab. When they went to check on the crew, the fireman was on the floor with his hands covering his face, and the driver still stood upright, his hand on the throttle. Both were scalded all over to the point where they were barely recognizable, just like their engine. Several of the employees present resigned from their jobs the next day. Henry arrived to take Sudrian back to Croven's Gate with a tarp over him as not to traumatize onlookers. A full inspection was performed on the remains, but the details were kept under lock and key. Sudrian remained a one-off design, and Philip Grayson would later perish in the war. Edward, Henry, the employees who were present, and Croven's Gate personnel were all told not to tell a soul about what had happened that night, and most of them agreed it was for the best. Many workers were rather sheepish for a while after the incident. I'm not going to say every year Sudrian comes back to haunt the rails or something like that as if this is some kind of ghost story, because it isn't. Sudrian is gone. Gone for good. He wasn't exactly missed, as nobody had truly gotten to know him. In fact, many who weren't there the night of the incident forgot he had ever existed. There is a lesson to be learned here, many in fact, but I'm not going to outright say them, as what would be the point? They seem quite obvious, if I do say so myself. But I think the people of Croven's Gate learned their lesson. Don't you? After all, nobody on the island ever treated a newly built engine that way again.